face, spoke in a whisper. It's the voice that gives the sex away. Yeah, could well have been a woman.
Miss Caswell.
She looks a little old for the part. But it's a very wide field, Mrs. Ralston. There's yourself, for instance.
Me?
At the right age.
No.
No, Mrs. Ralston. Whatever you tell me about yourself, I have no means of checking. And is this husband of yours?
Charles, how ridiculous.
He and Mr. Wren are much of an age. Say your husband looked a little older than his actual years, and Mr. Wren looked a little younger. Actual age is very hard to tell. Just how long have you been married?
No, just a year.
Where'd you meet him?
Met in London at a party.
Did you meet his people?
Yeah, he hasn't got any people, they're all dead.
They're all dead.
Yes, but you make it sound all wrong. His father was a barrister and his mother died when he was a baby.
You were only telling me what he told you.
Yeah.
You don't know it of your own knowledge.
Yes, but...
Mrs. Ralston, you'd be surprised if you knew how many cases like yours we get, especially since the war. Families broken up, homes broken. The fella says he's been in the Air Force or just finished his army training. Parents killed, no relations. No backgrounds these days. Young people just settle their own affairs. It used to be that the parents or the relations would make inquiries before consenting to an engagement. It's all done away with now. The girl just marries a man. Just how long had you known Giles Ralston when you married him?
It was just 3 weeks, but...
And you don't know anything about him?
That's not true. I know everything about him. I know exactly the sort of person he is. He's Giles, and it's absurd to suggest that he's some crazy, homicidal maniac. Why, he wasn't even in London yesterday when the murder took place.
Where was he? Here?
No. He went out in the car to get some chicken wire.
Bring it back with him, did he?
No. Turned out to be the wrong kind.
About 30 miles from London, aren't you? Ah, you have an ABC. 1 hour by train. A little longer by car.
I tell you, Giles wasn't in London yesterday.
Just a minute, Mrs. Ralston. Is this your husband's coat?
Yes.
London Evening News. Bought on the street yesterday about 3:30 in the afternoon.
Yes.
Don't you, Mrs. Ralston? Don't you?
Molly!
Startled me.
Where is he? Where has he gone?
Who?
The sergeant.
That place.
If only I could get away from here. Somehow, some way. Is there anywhere in this house I could hide?
Hide?
Yes, from him!
Why?
Oh, but darling, they're all so frightfully against me. They're going to say I committed all these murders, particularly your
Oh,
husband.
never mind him. Listen, Chris, you can't go on running away from things all your life.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, it's quite true, isn't it?
Yes, it's quite true.
Got to grow up sometime, eh?
I wish I hadn't.
Your name isn't really Christopher Wren, is it?
Yeah.
And you're not really trained to be an architect, are you?
Yeah.
So why did you...
Call myself Christopher Wren. Just amused me. And then at school, they all used to call me Little Christopher Robin. Robin Wren, association of ideas, I suppose. Oh, just hell being in school.
What's your real name?
Oh, we needn't go into that. I ran away while I was doing my army service. It was all so beastly, I hated it! Yes, just like the unknown murderer. I told you I was the one the specification fitted. You see, my mother...
Yes,
My-
your mother.
It all would have been all right if she hadn't died. She would have been there to take care of me, look after me.
Oh, Christopher, you can't go on being looked after all your life. Things happen, you've just got to bear them, you've just got to carry on as usual.
Oh, one can't do it!
Yes, one can.
I mean, you have.
Yes.
What was it? Was it something bad?
Something I've never forgotten.
Was it to do with Giles?
Oh no, it's long before I met Giles.
Oh my, you must have been very young, almost a child.
But perhaps that's why it was so awful. It was horrible. I tried to put it out of my head. I try never to think of it.
So you're running away from things too. Running away from things instead of facing them.
Yes, perhaps in a way I am. Considering I never saw you till yesterday. Seem to know each other quite well.
Yes, rather odd, isn't it?
Don't know. There seems to be a sort of sympathy between us.
Anyway, you think I ought to stick it out?
Well, frankly, what else can you do?
I can pinch the sergeant's skis. I can ski quite well, you know.
No, that'd be frightfully stupid, almost like admitting you're guilty.
But Sergeant Trotter thinks I am guilty.
I don't know what the sergeant thinks. Hasten! Hasten! Hasten!
Who?
Sergeant. He puts things in your head. Things that can't be true, can possibly be true.
What's all this?
I don't believe it, and I won't believe it.
What don't you believe? Come on, out with it.
You see that?
Yes.
What is it? It's an evening paper, a London paper, yesterday's paper. It's in Giles' overcoat. But Giles wasn't in London yesterday.
If he's here all day.
But he wasn't. He went out in the car to get some wine netting for our chickens.
Oh, that's all right. Probably he did go to London after all.
Then why didn't he tell me he did?
All
Why
right.
would Teddy be racing around the countryside?
Well, perhaps with the news of the murders.
Giles didn't know about the murder. Did he? Did he?
Oh, good Lord, Molly. Surely you don't think... The sergeant doesn't think...
I don't know what he thinks. Make it think things about people. Ask yourself questions. You begin to doubt. If that's someone you love and know well, they'll be a stranger. That's what happens in a nightmare. There's someone in the middle of friends, and suddenly you look at their faces, and they're not your friends anymore. They're different people. They're dead. You just can't trust anyone. Because everyone's a stranger.
You seem to be interrupting something.
No, you were just talking. I must run out to the kitchen. There's the pie and potatoes, and I must prepare the spinach.
I'll come give you a hand.
No, you won't.
Giles!
Tete-a-tetes aren't very healthy things at present. You keep out of the kitchen and keep away from my wife.
Really, look here.
You keep away from my wife, friend. She's not going to be your next victim.
So that's what you think of me?
There's a killer on the loose in this house, and it seems to me you fit the bill perfectly.
Well, I'm not the only one around here who fits the bill.
I don't see who else does.
Oh, are you blind or do you just pretend to be?
I tell you, I'm worried about my wife's safety.
So am I, and I'm not going to leave her alone with you.
What the hell?
Please go, Chris. Please.
I won't go.
Please, best for a minute, please.
I shan't be far away.
Molly, you must be crazy. Perfectly prepared to shut yourself up in the kitchen with a homicidal
No,
maniac.
he isn't.
You only got to look at him to see that he's barmy.
No, he isn't, Giles. He's just unhappy. I tell you, Giles, I know if he was dangerous, and anyway, I can look after myself.
That's what Mrs. Boyle said.
Oh, just don't!
Okay, Molly, what is there between you and that wretched boy?
What do you mean by between us? I'm sorry for him, that's all.
That's all, is it? Perhaps you already met him. Perhaps you already met before. Perhaps you'd arranged for him to come here and pretend to meet for the first time. All cooked up between you, was it?
Giles, have you gone out of your mind? How dare you suggest these things?
It seems a bit strange that he'd arrive in an out-of-the-way place like this.
There wasn't the net Miss Boyle and Major Metcalf and Mrs. Casewell shot.
What is there between you and Christopher Wren?
Nothing between us. You're being absolutely ridiculous.
Am I?
Of course you are.
Have you been running up to London to meet him on the sly?
I haven't been up to London in weeks, you know that.
Haven't been up to London in weeks.
Yes.
Is that so? You see what this is?
Yes.
It's one of the gloves you were wearing yesterday. You dropped it. I picked it up. While I was talking to Sergeant Trotter. You see what's inside? A London bus ticket.
Oh, that.
It seems you didn't just go to the village yesterday, you went to London as well.
All right. I went.
Whilst I was safely racing around the countryside.
What, you were racing around the countryside?
Come on, admit it. You went to London.
All right. I went to London. So did you.
Eh?
So did you. You brought back an evening paper.
Where did you get that?
It was in your overcoat pocket.
Anyone could have put it there.
Did they? No, you were in London.
All right, yes, I went to London, but I didn't go to meet a woman there.
Oh, didn't you? I'm sure you didn't.
Did you go to London to meet Christopher Wren?
Oh, you're being absolutely ridiculous. Such a fool.
Then why did you go?
Should I tell you that? Perhaps now I've forgotten why I went.
Molly, you're crazy.
All right then. I'm crazy. Why not? Perhaps it's fun to be crazy.
What the hell?
Now, I do hope you young people are not saying a little bit more than you mean. One is so apt to be these lovers' quarrels.
Those quarrels, that's good.
Quite so, quite so. I know just how you feel. I have been through this all myself when I was a younger man. Jeunesse, as the poet says. Not been married long, I imagine.
That's no business of yours, Mr. Paravicini.
No business at all. But I just came in to say that the sergeant cannot find his keys, and I'm afraid he's very annoyed.
What? What's that?
So, our young architect has hooked it, has he?
Mr. Ralston, Mrs. Ralston, have either of you two taken my skis from the cupboard near the kitchen door?
Of course not.
Well, somebody's taken them.
What made you happen to look for them?
The snow is still lying. I need help here, reinforcements. I was going to ski over to the police station near Markhampton and make a report on the situation.
And now you can't. Dear, somebody seemed that you certainly shan't do that. But there could be another reason, couldn't there?
What?
Somebody may want to get away.
What did you mean when you said Christopher just now?
Nothing. So, our young architect has hooked it, has he? Very, very interesting.
This is true, Mrs. Ralston.
Oh goodness, there you are.
Mr. Reynolds, have you taken my skis from the cupboard near the kitchen door?
No, why should I?
Well, Mrs. Ralston seemed to think that...
And Mr. Wren is very fond of skiing. I thought you might have taken them to get a little exercise.
Exercise.
Now look here, you people, this is a serious matter. Somebody has removed my only chance of communication with the outside world. Now I want everyone assembled here at once.
I think Miss Gateswell has gone upstairs. I guess so. I left Major Metcalf in the dining room. Metcalf! He's not there.
I'll try and find him. Hello, wanting me?
It's a question of my skis.
Skis?
Mr. Ralston!
Mr. Ralston, do you mind going upstairs to get Miss Casewell? She went up to her room. Tell her it'll only take a few minutes. Sorry for interrupting your meal, Mrs. Ralston, but some things are more important than meals. Mrs. Boyle, for example, won't be wanting any more meals.
That's a very tactless way of putting things, Sergeant.
I'm sorry, but I want cooperation and I intend to get it. Mr. Ralston! Now, will you all listen carefully? You may remember earlier on, after the murder of Mrs. Boyle, I took statements from you all. Those statements related to your whereabouts in the house at the time of the murder. I had no means of checking those statements. They may be true, they may be not. Now, to put it quite clearly, 5 of those statements were true, 1 of them was false. Which one? 5 of you were speaking the truth, 1 of you lied. Now, if I find out who the liar was, then I know who the murderer is.
Not necessarily. Someone may have lied for some other reason.
I rather doubt that.
What's the idea? You treat us as though everybody's under suspicion. That's absurd.
In a murder case, Mr. Ralston, everyone is under suspicion.
But you just said you don't mean to checking these statements.
Yes, but if everyone was to go through those actions a second time,
That old chestnut. A reconstruction of the crime.
That's a foreign idea.
not a reconstruction of the crime, a reconstruction of the movements of apparently innocent people.
And what do you expect to learn from that?
You will forgive me if I don't make that clear at this moment.
You want a repeat performance?
Yes, I do, Mr. Ralston.
Then I will return to the drawing room, and once again I will pick up with 1 finger the signature jar of a murderer. Dun, dun,
Not so
dun.
fast, Mr. Parravicini. Mrs. Ralston, do you play piano?
Oh yes, I do.
And do you know the tune of 3 Blind Mice?
Don't you all know it?
Good. Then, you can pick it out on the piano with 1 finger, just as Mr. Parravicini did. So, I'm going into the drawing room, sitting at the piano and waiting for my call.
But Sergeant, I understood that we were each to repeat our former roles.
The same actions will be repeated, yes, but not necessarily by the same people.
I don't see the point.
It's a means of checking on those the statements given earlier, and maybe one statement in particular. Now, if you'll all listen carefully, I'll assign you all your stations. Mr. Ray, will you kindly go down to the kitchen and keep an eye on Mrs. Ralston's dinner? You were very fond of cooking, I believe. Mr. Paracini, will you go upstairs to Mr. Wren's room? By the back stairs is the most convenient place. Major Metcalf, will you go up to Mr. and Mrs. Ralston's room? Check the telephone extension up there. Miss Casewell, would you kindly go down to the cellar? Mr. Wren will show you the way. Mr. Ralston, I'm sorry to have to ask you this, but somebody has to repeat my own actions. Would you mind climbing out that window and tracing the telephone wire? Rather a chilly job, but you seem like the toughest one here.
And what are you going to do?
I will be playing the part of Mrs. Boyle.
Taking a bit of a risk, aren't you?
You are all to stay in your places and remain there until you hear me call.
Pardon, Davis.
No objection to my wearing a coat?
I should advise it, sir. Take my torch, it's there behind the curtain. Mrs. Ralston! Count to 20 and then begin to play!
Yes, what is it? You're looking really pleased with yourself. Have you got what you wanted?
Oh, I've got exactly what I wanted.
You know who the murderer is?
Yes, I know.
Which of them?
You ought to know, Mrs. Ralston.
Why?
Us policemen aren't as dumb as you think, Mrs. Ralston. From the beginning, I've realised that you had first-hand knowledge of the Longridge Farm affair. And that you knew Mrs. Boyle was the magistrate in question. In fact, you knew all about it.
I don't understand.
Your maiden name was Waring.
Yes.
Miss Waring.
Yes.
You taught school. Taught at the school where those poor children went.
Yes.
It's true, isn't it, that Jimmy, the little boy who died, he managed to get a letter posted to you, didn't he? A letter begging for help from his kind young teacher. You never answered that letter.
I couldn't. I never got it.
You just didn't bother.
But that's not true. I was ill. I went down with pneumonia that very day. The letter was put aside with other letters, and it was weeks afterwards that I got it. A lot of other letters. And then, the poor child was dead. 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 He'd been waiting for me to do something. Hoping. Gradually losing hope. It's haunted me ever since. If only I hadn't been ill. If only I'd known. It's monstrous that such things could happen.
Yes, it's monstrous.
I didn't think the police carried revolvers.
The police don't. I'm not a policeman, Mrs. Ralston. You thought I was a policeman because I rang from a call box and said I was phoning from police headquarters and that I was Superintendent Ogden and Sergeant Trotter was on his way. Do you know who I am, Mrs. Ralston? I'm Georgie. Jimmy's elder brother, Georgie. I'd like to talk to you, Mrs. Ralston. I said I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how Jimmy died. That nasty one who killed her. They put her in prison. Prison wasn't bad enough for her. I said I could kill her one day. And I did. In the fog. It was great fun. I said I'd kill them all one day. When I've grown up. Grown-ups? They can do whatever they like. I'm gonna kill you in a minute.
You better not. You'll never get safely away, you know.
Someone's taken my skis. I can't find them. Doesn't matter. I don't really mind whether I get away or not. I'm tired now. It's all been such fun. Watching you all running around, pretending to be a policeman.
The revolver will make a lot of noise.
Yes, it will, rather. Much better to do it the normal way. Take you by the neck. My last little mouse in the trap.
Georgie! 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 Georgie, you know me, don't you? Don't you remember the farm, Georgie? The animals? That old pig? And the day the ball chased us across the field? And the dogs?
Dogs?
Yes, Spot and Plain.
Kathy?
Yes, Kathy. You remember me now, don't you?
It is you.
I came to England to find you. I didn't recognise you until you twirled your hair the way you always used to do. Yes, you always did it. Georgie, come with me. You're coming with me.
Where are we going?
It's all right, Georgie. I'm taking you somewhere where they will look after you and see that you won't do any more harm.
Ralston! Ralston! Ralston!
Molly! Molly, I'm all right. Who would have dreamt it was Trotter?
It's mad, quite mad.
Yes, but you...
I was caught up in it all. I taught in the school and he thought I could have saved that child, but it wasn't my fault.
You should have told me.
I wanted to forget.
Everything's under control. He will be unconscious soon with a sedative. Poor fellow's as mad as a hatter, of course. I've had my suspicions of him all along.
He did. He was a policeman.
I knew he wasn't a policeman. You see, Mrs. Ralston, I'm a policeman.
You?
As soon as we got hold of that notebook with Monkswell Manor written in it, we knew it was vital to have someone on the spot. When it was put to him, Major Metcalfe agreed to let me take his place. I couldn't understand it when Trotter turned up.
Casewell is a sister.
Yes, it seems she recognized him just before this last business. Didn't know what to do, but fortunately he called me about it just in time. Well, it started to thaw. I shall be here pretty soon. Oh, by the way, Mrs. Ralston, I removed those skis. I hid them on top of the floor poster.
I thought it was Caravaccini.
I gather they'll examine that car of his rather carefully. I wouldn't be surprised if they found 1,000 or so Swiss watches in the spare wheel. That's the line of business he's in. Oh, the nasty bit of goods. Molly, I believe you thought I was...
Antos, what were you doing in London yesterday?
Darling, I was buying you an anniversary present. We've been married a year today.
That's what I went to London for, but I didn't want you to know.
No?
Hold on. They're cigars. I do hope you like them.
Yes. Blended it.
You will smoke them.
Oh, I'll smoke them. Eventually.
And what's my present?
Yes, put on about your present. It's a hat.
A hat? Yeah, how do you wear one?
Just for best.
Darling, they're lovely.
Put it on.
I used to when my hair's done properly.
It's all right, isn't it? The woman in the shop said it was the last thing in hats.
Mrs. Ralston! Mrs. Ralston! There's a terrible smell of burning coming from the kitchen!
Oh